5 years in my teaching here, starting to see the impact that all the teams have had and that all of you will be able to build upon. So pass it to Drew to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Drew. I'm in Keogh in the Kroc Institute for International Peace Studies and in the environmental cluster of Pulte. And then I am faculty in the Frontlines program teaching the REAL class. The rest of my teaching and work is on environmental management and environmental peace building, which REAL is a pseudonym for environmental peace building. So we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Cool. All right. It doesn't matter. So yeah, Drew and I have co-taught business on the Frontlines together, and it's been really exciting to have the REAL class launched last year. You saw our teammates get us started. So Jess Parsons is our coordinator and Paige is our comm strategist. So what we want to do today is we'll very quickly, I think, talk about the program itself and our spring classes, because we do have alums from both courses, as you guys saw. And I think the best people to tell you about, what to consider when you're thinking about applying for and taking our courses is students who have gone through it before you. We are building upon, I think this is our 17th year as a program. And so we've been to many countries and of course domestically in the US as well, adding a couple new countries to the map this year. The sense of, what both courses have in common is, as you guys saw, multidisciplinary teams. We have a mix of MBA, law, MGA students in the room, perhaps others as well. Together, we work with partner organizations, NGOs, nonprofits, social enterprises, and co-create solutions alongside those partners. Everything is oriented to the community. So this is not nonprofit consulting. This is working, and that's why we call our partners partners and not necessarily clients, because we work alongside them to co-create solutions with and for the communities that they serve and we serve together. Here are some of the partnerships we've had and in the sectors we've worked in. Our work is all around creating jobs and driving sustainable economic growth, all around the dignity of work. So some of the sectors that are common for job creation, especially in global context and in emerging frontline markets, are agriculture, industrial entrepreneurship, and education. So we're here to talk about these two courses tonight and have these applications open. So now we'll focus on REAL.
Sure. Oh, is this for people on? Sorry, I hate microphones. This feels weird. So the big difference between REAL and International Frontlines is the topical focus, which you'll kind of see arise from the projects, also expertise difference in ways and what we focus on. And it was also, there's some tweaks to the structure, which is mostly what I'm going to focus on with this slide, to make it a little more opportunistic, one for MGA students to be able to integrate, because about 50% or so will be MGA, depending on how applications shake out. But also for folks in the MBA program who want to do Grow Irish between an interterm, it facilitates that. So what it would look like is in Mod 1, there's nothing Mod 1. Mod 2, you got to worry about the application stuff, which will open soon. There's a standardized process. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've reduced it down quite a bit. For REAL, you have to do city training through IRB. It's simple. You just have to get it done before class starts. It's so you can do human subjects research so that we can publish on the work that you do. We don't want it to just be done and then not go anywhere and not be accessible to others. So part of the process is being IRB certified so that we can then publish on it, right? Because that's my job. I'm a researcher, so I'm supposed to do. And you're going to help me do that. Some of you. The luckies. So the course will start in Mod 3. We don't have a retreat to start. The International Frontlines will, which Kelly will talk about in a moment. We hit the ground running. Twice a week lectures with me for 2 hours and all the meeting stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. But the big distinction is that then folks who want to go to Grow Irish can go to Grow Irish, but from wherever you're at, you're going to then fly to meet your team. This is where the MGA, so then law students, everyone else will then fly that week to all synchronize at the different locations we'll talk about in a moment on a Friday night, and then you'll work through the next Saturday. Then you'll come back and then it's asynchronous. I understand that a lot of people are thinking about jobs, might be thinking about moving, whatever, internships for the summer, whatever you got going. And my sole focus is getting products to partners to help the communities, and then figuring out what we're going to do with it for those that want to continue on and writing on it. So you don't meet with me in class, you get rid of the lecture portion, so it's asynchronous. You just still have your team and partner meetings weekly afterwards. So a little bit lighter load on the back half as far as in-class component, but hefty load on trying to get the products done. Products are a little bit variable based on what partner needs are. And we can kind of talk through what the skills are in the class that you'll learn that are then supposed to set you up for different products, from spatial analysis, like Kendall's team doing, sorry. I was thinking, anyways, our law student who was in it, but anyways, team for doing spatial analysis and reforestation in Uganda, to soil analysis that we're still running. So whoever goes to Uganda is going to have to repeat that. And then, well, Kellen will talk more about that later. Then, yeah, you present your report at the end of April, the products to the partners, and that ends the real course.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we do have projects. There's 4 right now. Those are locations. You see Uganda in there in East Africa, and then there will be 2 in Peru that'll be related but separate. And then 1 in either Nicaragua or Honduras, depending on CRS what comes up. So we're in the process of working through that one right now. The backup would be in Colombia with a partner we've worked with a lot, Paso Colombia, but I think we're going to end up with CRS, and I'll talk about that in a moment. For Peru, I've been working with Caritas Madre de Dios, Cincia, which is the Amazonian Scientific Innovation Institute, the vicariate there, so the church with Bishop David's office, and then a program sponsored through the Dicastery for Integral Human Development on thinking about regenerative agriculture as operationalizing integral ecology. Those of you familiar with Octave C, it comes out from there. Thinking about regenerative ag plus some, so what it does for the self, communities, in a mined landscape that is also at high risk of different changes as a function of climate change. And so what are alternative livelihood options for one group, and then what is responsible mining for another group in the area? These are just some photos. You can see this is the Madre de Dios River in the middle. All that stuff you see, it looks like craters of the moon, and those are former mining pits. Okay. And the Cincia, the Scientific Innovation Institute, is pioneering ways in doing remediation that can also produce livelihoods. So we're partnering with them. And Caritas working with indigenous communities and an agricultural cooperative. Here's just a photo of the mining that I took. So I've been working there now for almost a year, I guess. And actually, I'll be going back there in 2 weeks with some folks. But those are mining washboards from artisanal mining. And that shouldn't be a mound underneath it, but that's just all the tailings and all the mercury and everything else that's used in the process gets washed right into the river, creating challenges. So one of the groups we're going to work with, again, is Cincia. You see there in the bottom left. Who's been doing a lot of pioneering work on reforestation that can also produce livelihoods. So it could do what's called phytoremediation, removal of toxins as a function of the plants that are grown, while also planting trees that can provide a livelihood. Some is from rubber to calorie-producing trees. But it's all happening in areas that are formerly mined. So Amatov, which is a responsible mining, there's no true thing, it's sustainable mining, but there is responsible mining. They do a responsible mining process, but are having trouble working out their business model for it and optimizing remediation. So this is also going to be in partnership with Alfonso Pedraza Martinez. Any of our MBA students taken a class with him yet? You should. Highly recommend. He runs the Hope Lab, Humanitarian Operations Optimization Lab out of ITAL, with the department. Probably one of the best folks we got around. But he'll be helping guide that team in some ways. But thinking about how to optimize remediation and supply chains to produce livelihoods for responsible mining. It's one project. In partnership with them, we're also working with Caritas Madre de Dios, which Cincia and Caritas are partnered together, really. They think Cincia, technical assistance, Caritas, the social support apparatus. But on how to do regenerative agriculture predominantly through agroforestry for alternative livelihoods in areas that could be mined otherwise. So where you see Diogo Bolster, who's the chair of Civil and Environmental Engineering and Earth Sciences, who's going to be helping. He and I will both go to Peru during this period, or with these projects. Is meeting with a person that they're standing on heavily gold-laden area that the communities have chosen not to mine and instead want to continue to grow on for values that they can articulate much better than I can see. And that's a member of one of the local indigenous communities that's part of the cooperative that has 5 subgroups, which Approach is one of those. And you see Co-op Sur is the co-op directly that will be supporting. You can actually look them up online. They have a great website. You can see their exact locations. Pretty interesting folks. Same for Cincia. If you look at Cincia's website, you're also going to see that they are some of the best folks in doing work in the Amazon today. And their publications are in all the top journals. They are highly functional, great partners. Third partner is going to be Bethany Land Institute. We worked with them last year. I'm sure Kellen's going to talk about that. In Uganda with Emmanuel Katongole. Anyone met with Emmanuel campus yet? I know, I'm sure MGA students. He's a peace faculty member in peace studies and theology, a priest. We started the Bethany Land Institute to operationalize integral ecology. So we're doing everything from working with caretakers to understand how caretakers are the students who are in BLI. It's a training institute. They do a 2-year in-residence program. We're working to help build out the cooperative that's going to be called Martha's Market within BLI this year. That's the goal, is to set up this agricultural cooperative for people who have graduated from the program and who will graduate in the future, to have collective bargaining power and to build their brand from what they're trying to do. Oh, and by the way, the church owns 30% of the land in Uganda, and we're training seminarians there and doing other things. So there'll be some little side things that might also come up for the team, but the primary thing is Martha's Market. Okay, that's Manuel here. One of the most beautiful human beings you'll ever meet. That's their model. Okay. Last one is working on water smart agriculture for productivity and resilience as a vehicle for social cohesion. And peace building in either Honduras or Nicaragua. And it will be M&E, so measurement and evaluation of this program for CRS, who's been working in both locations for multiple years. I just haven't figured out which one we're going to go to yet, because both country directors wanted to take a call. So we're sorting through that, and then we'll have a separate team go and do the M&E for the other folks. Or it might end up being an iLab project, which is the Keo School's version of this, but elongated. So we'll ask for questions later.
Thank you. That sounds awesome. So Business on the Frontlines. This is MBA law, MJ students, primarily MBA. So the structure of the team, the average team will have 3 to 4 MBAs, 1 law student, 1 Keo student, or a few others on campus who are invited to apply. We run the class the full spring semester, mods 3 and 4, meet Tuesdays, Thursdays, 10 to noon with me. So here's a quick overview. I won't read it to you. You can read it. One thing I wanted to highlight that Drew touched on briefly is that we start with a retreat in South Bend. This is the Saturday and Sunday before classes begin. Each team will also have 2 professional advisors. Most of these people have gone through Business on the Frontlines themselves, are now 5, 10 years into their careers. And they come back to accompany you as coaches, as mentors. They travel with you. And so they will be here on campus when we begin. So it's an opportunity for your whole team to get together, get to know each other, and hit the ground running. And then we travel for 2 weeks. So this is because the course is primarily an MBA course. We use the Grow Irish Week. So this would be your Grow Irish project. For non-Mendoza students, you have dean support to take the course. However, you do need to check with any other instructors that you have to make sure that you have their approval and you do whatever you need to do to miss your classes that week. It is required that all students travel as a team. We don't have students arrive halfway through, and that's primarily just logistically because we become, hours and dirt roads away from airports, so it just doesn't work. So we travel the Grow Irish Week and spring break. These are kind of our potential projects. I always asterisk that because there have been many times where we've had to pivot. This could be due to security concerns. This could be due to strategic priorities. It's really important to me that the projects we scope are strategic in nature, are things that we as MBA law and global affairs students can work on together, that they're community oriented. So should partner priorities change to something that's just not a good fit, it's more important to me that I set up good projects for you all. So what we're looking at right now is we will have 1 team in Honduras. This is with a return partner looking at economic opportunity through micro entrepreneurship. We'll have 1 team in Uganda working with a women's vocational training program and determining what a looking forward strategy might be to focus more on supporting these women launch entrepreneurial endeavors. So once you're trained, okay, now what? How do you make a living from your training? And then in Uzbekistan, also to launch an entrepreneurship hub. So definitely a theme this year around entrepreneurship, which in the past, Business on the Frontlines has kind of had a variety of themes, which is awesome. But I think there's a really cool opportunity this year to have our projects all focus on similar themes and then use more time in class to advance our expertise and understanding of what it takes to launch a program focused on incubating and supporting women and families in the startup environment. So the first in Honduras, this is with Olancho Aid Foundation. We first worked with them in the spring of 2020. The team recommended this big strategic plan that involved divesting certain parts of the organization, developing skills and resources in others. And it took them, many years to do this. And now they're at a point where they've kind of reestablish their organization and want us to come back in to help build out their micro entrepreneurship strategy. This is all around keeping people home. If you have any understanding of Honduras, one of the biggest challenges is lack of economic opportunity, gangs and forced migration. And so this organization, which is in rural Honduras, it's in Olancho, so they call themselves the Texas of Honduras. Creating economic opportunity there to prevent forced migration. The second one in Uzbekistan is with Aga Khan Development Network. They are the largest Muslim humanitarian organization in the world. We have worked with them since the spring of 2022 or one, now I can't even remember, 2022. First in Tajikistan, then a few years in Kyrgyzstan, and now in Uzbekistan. So the Aga Khan's not brand new to the country, but this part of the organization is. And so they're looking to their team to help them understand the context of Uzbekistan, what makes it different than the other places where they've successfully launched their program called Accelerate Prosperity, and help them design what metrics they should be looking at in this context. In some of the countries where they work, it's really focused on environmental impact. Some, it's more of a poverty initiative, and they're also always looking for financial return so that they can remain sustainable. And so we will be working with them, and then they've already established anchor partnerships in Uzbekistan who will be kind of hosting and the launching pad of their program. So getting to know the partners that they've secured, to know their strengths, what opportunities exist, and build this program. And then the third is with St. Paquitas in Uganda. This program is something that's part of the Powerful Means initiative here on campus, launched by Professor Wendy Angst. And they're at a point where they're, like I mentioned a little earlier, they're trying to figure out how to transition from a vocational training program into more of an entrepreneurship incubator and supporting women, or that's part of their question. Should we stick with women or do we expand? And folks in the northern region of Uganda, which has been most impacted by conflict, in launching micro enterprises and small businesses. This is a sample week for Botful. I think much of this might be similar to Real in Mod 3.
One big difference, and I forgot to mention this, the traditional Botful has the two expert advisors or alumni advisors. Real has one that and we have those actually two MBA students, and then a student who used to work with me. She's now at IFPRI, which is a International Food Research Institute. But we also have we call it ECI advisors, the Environmental Change Initiative on campus. We have science and engineering students, they're faculty advisors, so advanced PhD students and faculty advisors who have expertise relevant to the specific projects that will be guiding the kind of science and engineering components of the projects. It's just to help with environmental literacy and to make a more amplified contribution to what our partners are doing. So it's to help think about it if you were a consulting team, they're like an add-on to the team to help amplify the work. We also have a relationship with the Geospatial Analysis Lab on campus to help with the spatial products. So I'm not expecting you to do that work, but you can contract it out, but you do need to understand it from a manager's perspective. So it's just some of the, but you have an extra meeting, that's the relevance to this, an extra meeting with your Flecky advisor, we're calling it, for that first semester to really get up to speed on the environmental issues and challenges and potential innovations that are out there that have been modeled elsewhere and their applicable appropriateness for this particular context.
Thank you, Drew. Yeah, so here, business on the front lines is 8 credits. Real is 6 credits, both significantly more than other classes you take. And that's because there are requirements outside of class, and you should know that going in. You can't be successful in having an impact if you don't put in the work. So you can expect, 1 or 2 team meetings outside of class. 1 is required. I think alumni would tell you they found it helpful to have a secondary touch point, even if not a full working session. You will meet with your advisors outside of class, and you will meet with your partners outside of class. That's the reason for the credit load. And then in addition, you will have coursework, readings, videos, assignments, in addition to your team's project. So this just gives you a view of a sample week. And kind of going along with that, Thoughtful and Real both require the highest levels of capability, commitment, and capacity. So, for many of you, you're in your second year, you've got your coursework behind you, whether your expertise is in financial modeling or marketing plans or peace building or human rights law, whatever your coursework has entailed up until this point. This makes these courses a great capstone to apply everything you've learned, or maybe you're bringing in experience prior to coming here as students. You have expertise in supply chains or organizational change, whatever that might be. So we're looking for students who have those skills to apply in the projects. Commitment. That's the second most important thing, or maybe even should be first before capability. Students who ask, like, what do I get out of this course? I think our alumni can answer, you get out what you put in. These courses are really about your commitment to impact, your commitment to systems change. And through that, that's how we have an impact. And that's why we all work so hard. If we didn't have an impact, like Drew and I would for sure teach other stuff, right? And so we expect you to come in with a commitment to having the impact that we know is possible. And then the third is capacity, right? You might have the skills, the experiences to really be a strong contributor on a team. You might be committed to change and impact. But if you're just too busy, if you're trying to balance, other internships, leadership positions, finding a job, you have another demanding course, you should really consider if you have the time to give. So please, just know these courses are demanding, and that's how we have the impact that we do. I think especially knowing that our partners are across so many time zones, right? That can lead to late night calls, early morning calls, juggling schedules with your team anyways. And based on all you put in, some of the things, and I'd rather, hear it from the alumni talking about their own experiences, but I think relationships are a big thing you take away from these courses in terms of your team, your partners, the communities you serve. You will have a deeper understanding of the role of business. And I say business not with a capital B. Business isn't always a who or a what, but in Business on the Front Lines, it's a how. It's, taking the skills that MBA students learn and, learning to build a common language across our interdisciplinary teams to apply business problem solving towards driving change. And then what we hope for all of you is that this becomes a journey of transformation and self-discovery that, really, either deepens or broadens or advances the way that you view the world and opportunities for impact. So with that, I'd love to invite our alumni up to share your experiences. All right, turn it off to Kellen.
Hi, everyone. Kellen Lemasters. I was in the first Real class last spring. One of the things that led me to Notre Dame specifically was the experiential learning opportunity. That's why I came here. I think we all have our own ideas of like what grow the good means. To me, that was going on a project like this, working with a partner where we can create tangible results that these organizations could and most likely will implement. So why I say that, we had the opportunity to work with Bethany Land Institute out of Uganda with Father Katongole here at University of Notre Dame at Keough School, as well as the organization itself that sits in just north of Kampala, capital city, about 50 kilometers north out there. So the organization is focused on integral ecology and regenerative agriculture. So pulling students from all over rural Uganda and on that 2-year program, which Drew mentioned, on site, teaching them different practices from farming techniques, business practices, personal finance, things of that nature. So think 60% of the time they're out in the field actually working and learning, 40% of their time is in the classroom. So what our team was tasked with was helping them generate their next 5-year strategic plan. Their strategic plan from 2019 to 2024 was set to expire. And our job and our opportunity here was helping them create what those next 5 years would look like. So some of the biggest things that I got out of this was what I learned from my other teammates. I came from a background not in the business world. So from that consulting aspect, if you look at it from that lens, I had no familiarity with what that looked like. How do we manage a project in this sense? That was all new to me, completely different than anything I had done before. So one thing I want to point out, one of my teammates, she was in the Peace Corps prior, dual degree, MGA, MBA. So what I learned from her, we created different activities with the caretakers and different people at BLI. Those activities were icebreakers that we did, what BLI meant to you, helping everyone understand, like, maybe why are we here, us being the students from Notre Dame, and what we're helping to do with the organization. And also for us to give us a better understanding of what BLI means, not from an insider perspective. So my partner who had time in the Peace Corps helped me understand what different activities we could do that helps us give a better sense of the organization and how it operates on a day-to-day basis. Another one of my teammates was an engineering undergrad. One of our biggest responsibilities during this project earlier this year was mapping out the entirety of BLI's campus, if you will. So you're looking at just over 300 acres in total. We walked by foot using GPS trackers to mark out exactly where different animals were housed, the different farms and whatnot. So I'm learning almost like a systems thinking from my engineering teammate. The other teammate was previously middle school, high school teacher. So what I picked up from him was the importance of when and where to generate input. He was on the quieter side, but every time he spoke, everyone listened, and it was a thoughtful response that was actionable and something that we would carry with forward. The final thing my final teammate I want to speak about, well, I actually got two. I don't want to forget everybody. The lawyer on our team, incredible project manager.
Kendall.
That was Kendall, who you was talking about. The lawyer on the team was an absolutely incredible project manager. After every meeting, notes are being pushed out, tasks are being pushed, and it's something I had never seen done to that capacity before. I carried that with me to this summer at Bank of America and was utilizing what I learned from her all throughout the summer, specific to project work. So all that to say is that you're going to learn from your teammates, regardless of what their background is, regardless of what they're going to do in their future with business, with law, with global affairs. You're going to learn from each other. It was a truly transformative experience for me in that I felt like I was learning from everybody else and contributing when I could. And I hope that they would say the same thing about me. But sitting there in Uganda on the back porch after working about 10 to 12 hour days typically, because you're in such a short amount of time, you have to take as much as you can out of your time there on site. But sitting there, sharing a meal with people that are working at BLI, with people that founded BLI, and you're sitting there with food grown, harvested, and cooked all on site is something that sticks with you throughout your experience here. And that's why I think this course, honestly, everyone should be taking. Real, thoughtful. It should be what truly the grow the good in business means to me. And I think that's what you'll start to see and what you'll see at the end of this experience with Real or Thoughtful, whichever you choose.
Appreciate it.
I do have to leave picture day for the Vets Club, but that's why you'll never see me in this ever again.
Uniform.
I almost said uniform. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll send my email out somehow, some way, if it's not up here already.
Oh, thanks, Colin. Smile big.
Thanks, Kellen. It's hard to follow such a thoughtful reflection about your time with the class. Hi, my name is Catherine. I go by Kat. I am a third-year dual degree student with the MBA and Master of Global Affairs. I'm a strategy major here, and my concentration is in sustainable development in the Global Affairs School. I actually came to Notre Dame for the Global Affairs program, and during my time there, decided that an MBA would really complement my career goals. And so that's why I'm here. And my background is in international development. And so the Botful class was one of the really main reasons I wanted to come to Notre Dame or participate in the MBA program. Just that intersection of impactful business advising and thinking about the role of business in society was something really interesting to me. So during the Botful class, I was partnered with Newmont Mining, which is one of the world's largest gold mining companies in the world. And we were in Ghana working with their sustainability team. Not to get too much into the nitty gritty of their situation, but essentially they had a biodiversity offset obligation. And we were supporting them and coming up with a strategy of alternative livelihood development with 40 rural communities surrounding a forest that they were working to preserve. So rather than focusing necessarily on the team aspect as Kellen did, just from a personal growth situation, my background was working in Latin America, and moving on to learning about Ghana and West Africa was really just a great personal development. Again, with someone from an international development background, you can still learn a lot, and it's really important to learn how to adapt to new context very quickly. So with the pace of the Botful class, just learning those personal professional development skills of how do you intake new information quickly and use it in your hypothesis building, and also grow resilience in that of not beating yourself up for not knowing everything and being open to learning was a really great experience. Also learning how to work with an international organization. The sustainability team were all Ghanaian individuals, and just learning about their lives and their backgrounds and their passions was something really impactful and just expands your worldview. So it was an amazing experience. I am going to be moving into internal consulting after I graduate at a financial institution. And so this process really helped me build confidence in how I can work in, really varied, diverse stakeholder groups, how I can be onboarded quickly, how I adapt to new information and new situations, how I build trust with diverse stakeholders and be able to work effectively with them. And yeah, I think it's a class that, as Kellen was saying, everyone should push themselves to take. As Kelly said, it is a lot of work and a lot of commitment, but you can see there's always a class of people that has succeeded in finding internships and finding the way to balance their class load, and have been successful. So I really think that it is accessible to people, and you just find those support networks, and everyone in the class is in it together. So that's a little bit about that, and I'll pass it on to Lydia.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Knoll. Similar to Kat, I'm also a dual degree with an MBA in strategy and the MGA, or Masters of Global Affairs in Sustainable Development. I did the Bothell program in my very first MBA year, which was 2 springs ago, and went to Uganda with an organization called Building Tomorrow. And our project was really focused on how to increase retention of some of the volunteer educators that were teaching students as tutors in the local communities, because schools were often inaccessible or very difficult to get to, or there was high teacher absentee rates, et cetera, multiple barriers that they were facing. And so they really wanted to build out this whole roster of teachers that could come to the students where they were at, meet them in their local communities. But they were seeing really high turnover rates and weren't sure how to retain these teachers and how to ensure a high quality of teacher. And so how were they evaluating teachers for the skills that they had and ensuring that they actually came with their own educational background so they could teach the students?
So it was a really fascinating project. I had no prior experience in the educational space or in international development. I came from the corporate world and was working in digital marketing for a little while, and then had a short stint working for like a social impact team at a big brand. And so got to see a little bit of how brands and nonprofits work together. But this was a whole different experience of actually being inside the NGO and understanding how they also need these business practices to be sustainable. And not only at an organizational level, but even at a personal level. We spoke with, and this will be applicable for this year too, but we spoke with some entrepreneurs that were in the community, because a lot of the individuals that were volunteers or were teachers have their own side hustles and are very entrepreneurial. And so using some of that business acumen to help teach them how to be better in their own entrepreneurship activities was really interesting too. And that will be applicable for a lot of the projects this year, it sounds like. But I wanted to emphasize, and Kat and Kellen have already talked about just about everything, I think, that we can share about these projects and the great experiences that we've had. But one piece I just wanted to emphasize was the relational aspect. I really came away, and I was very fortunate to have an excellent group of students around me, and we all became really close friends. And so I came away from this project with literally like lifelong friends, people that I still keep in touch with to this day, that I've gone to weddings for, and we have yearly reunions with. And it really was an unexpected result of taking this class, because or you at least anticipate that you're going to get the educational concepts out, you're going to learn new things and work with these communities, you're going to practice some of your consulting skills. But to think that you could actually make some really good friends that are right here in your class, or maybe that are in a different degree program or a class under you, above you, etc., was something that I didn't necessarily expect, but was fortunate enough to have. And I would say similar teams had some similar experiences and also formed great relationships with advisors or other advisors in the Bothell alumni network. When you graduate out of the program, it really does become a alumni group of individuals that are close knit, and is often brought up in recruiting calls with folks if they have taken the program as well. So I've had several conversations with people that now work in really cool jobs professionally that I am interested in either recruiting to their organization or their specific teams. And Bothell is a consistent thing that I'm able to bring up and chat with them about, and they know, okay, you've put in the work, you have worked within a community and within complicated problems, diverse team dynamics. And I think it speaks a lot to the recruiter about just the skills that you bring to the table too, and you're able to relate together about the challenging semester that it can be, but also the really rewarding semester that it is. So I wanted to emphasize that piece, but otherwise just second everything they've said about the valuable experience that it is, and would highly encourage all of you to participate if you're able.
Might have to answer questions.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to go through? Yeah, I don't either. So I'd love if there's questions for Drew and I, or for the alumni to answer. While you're thinking of your questions, I can give an update on Lydia's project. So, okay. Sure, I guess for the people listening to the recording. Well, first of all, she says lifelong relationship. She has two teammates who are now like 2 years into a romantic relationship, which is not uncommon, but please don't take this class just as a matchmaking service, though we are pretty good. But more importantly, the Lydia's team and the two teams before her and the teams after her have helped Building Tomorrow secure a $55 million USAID grant to scale the program that the Business on the Frontlines teams over the last 4 years have designed. So they're currently in the process of hiring, I think, 11 people per week, starting beginning of September through the end of December, and we'll be scaling this program beginning in January. They also announced a large partnership with Clinton Global this past week at UN General Assembly, where one of Lydia's teammates was alongside the founder of Building Tomorrow. So I think just a really cool story where you can see how multiple years of teams who are committed to impact, working alongside partners, can really result in driving a massive amount of change, especially in places that really need it. So that give you time to think of some questions. Yes, thank you.
My question is,
How do you choose a partner, a place, and a project to work on for the next, I don't know, how big a commitment is it for like 10 years or maybe just this one semester? Or
Yeah, do you want me to take it or you want to take it?
International.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start and then Drew can chime in. I think so for me, most important is selecting partners who have skills to implement. You know, our projects are designed to be international, thoughtful, at least designed to be strategic in nature. So your team will develop a strategy. Some of them are like quite ambiguous when you begin. Some might be a little more focused, but either way, we are not implementing. You know, through our program and with our alumni, we may continue to be a sounding board during implementation, but you know, we need the partner to have the resources, the skill sets, and the interest and commitment to implementation. And so kind of looking at what are they asking us to do and do they have both senior leadership commitment and also, you know, the everyday people on the ground in order to implement whatever we might come up with. You know, number two, is this an interesting and meaningful project to students? And that's where I think community orientation usually comes in. You know, we aren't interested in doing a big fundraising marketing plan, although that might be part of what's required in order to raise the funds for implementation. But I want, you know, each project to be oriented at the community level themselves and give you the chance to co-create these solutions with community members. And I think that's really where the impact, the personal impact you heard the alumni talk about comes into play is, you know, projects that inherently require community member involvement. And then, you know, when it's a new partner, we kind of paint the picture of what a long-term partnership could look like, you know, leaving room to walk away, either for a year or two while, you know, they implement like what we've done in Honduras, or, you know, longer kind of if we weren't quite a good set of partners. So we just do our best to find the right people with the right projects at the right time, and hope that they continue to evolve into something like what, you know, Lydia and the Building Tomorrow teams have been able to deliver.
On the real side, it's a bit different. So all of these are my research partners, and real is one of several lines of work that we have going. So for example, I'm bringing a few PhD students when I go in 2 weeks to do a little bit more of the scoping projects that are going to be working their dissertations with our partners. We have 5 faculty members other than me from business, science, engineering, and one more from Kio that are all involved in the Peru project, whereas the work in Uganda has got several other folks, some from science and engineering, the Emmanuel from theology, and some PhD students from there. So this is one of several components in order to have a longer research partnership, because the empirical evidence base on regenerative agriculture as a functional alternative livelihood is very, very limited. And so we're building out a longitudinal evidence base to determine whether or not it works, both as an ecological component, that's why we do the environmental science side, and a sustainable economic livelihood, right? Because it has to be economically stable or else people won't do it and it's not feasible. So we got to do both sides of the equation and see if, because of the technical requirements and information necessary to be a successful regenerative agriculture producer, it can be a vehicle for social cohesion as well, from all of the interaction that has to happen between people and communities. And are there also perverse components of it? And we've actually seen that, where you create what you might call the dark side of it, where you're adding value in the land by doing regenerative agriculture. Well, someone else is going to want that land. And that's BLI actually is in a legal battle, for example. And same with several other producers in Peru who are facing regular challenges, from miners to commercial agriculture operations that want their land. So ours is all built around long-term research partnerships as the primary thing of interest to support the partners. And then real is one vehicle by which we serve the partners.
My question is more about the application process and like the assignment to a different project. So is that something based on this discussion and, you know, our deeper research and looking into the programs that we would express interest in? Like, would we say, oh, with Botful, I'd want to be considered for the mining project? Or is it something we apply for the class as a whole and then you get like funneled into a specific team based on like the other students who are accepted to the program?
Yeah, so you can apply for both classes and you can preference which one you're interested in. And then the way I kind of characterize it is you get a vote, you don't get to choose for what project. So you get to voice it. We take that into consideration. We also take into consideration many other components that come up either through your applications or through the interview processes to make high quality teams with diverse skills that we think will have good cohesion and bring the value to partners that we need. So for example, language skills are considered, backgrounds for work that you've done elsewhere or in the areas. And it doesn't always match up exactly. And there might be some questions. Some folks aren't always happy, but in general, I think we do a pretty successful job of matching up people with taking seriously their consideration or their interests to match up. So, but I don't want to add anything to that.
The only thing I would add for Botful, there isn't a specific place to state your interest. So if you have a preference, you would incorporate that somehow into your written application or in an interview or email me or something. The reason it's not specifically asked is because sometimes if you ask it, students, may rank the 3 projects, but they really don't care. And sometimes, there really may be a strong preference for one and it's difficult to assess that. And I also, want to set the expectation that you don't get to pick, as Drew said, you do get a vote if you have a strong opinion to state it. And I think when we ask for example, if you're also applying to both classes, but say there's only one project in Botful you're interested in, if you don't get that project.
Next slide.
Oh, I didn't know there were more.
Oh, it's Kelly. It's Mike.
And one more.
Just while you're talking, I thought.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you for creating this slide. So I think in the application, if you are applying to both classes, but say you only want to do Botful if you're, on Team Uzbekistan and otherwise you want to do real. I think do we have a question for you to explain what your preference, Jess?
It doesn't, the question doesn't say what is your preference, but it does say I think it says something like.
I think it just says
background and interest. It's like a short essay.
Okay.
Would be a good area to be.
Yeah, I think it's open-ended maybe if you say, what you're applying to, and then that would be a place to just explain, like, I want Botful if I could be on this team, otherwise I want real or, vice versa. Yeah. So, and as always, like I said, you can email me, you can email Drew if you have strong preference and you want to explain. We take it into consideration, but most important to us is building high performing teams. And, as Kat said, maybe we have an expert on Latin America, but we actually would prefer you to develop your experience in, Africa or someplace else. We want this to be a learning experience. And so, we also think about that as we build diverse and high performing teams. Other questions? Any questions for Kat or Lydia and Mark is also one of our alums and what's your name in the back?
Justin.
Ujay. Awesome. So, whether you have questions here or you want to connect with our alums after this session, you're always welcome to and encouraged to do so. And I have office hours this Friday at 11, or, if that doesn't work for you, you can always email me. And Drew has office hours as well.
Sort of. I'm not teaching this semester, so you can just email me. We can link up. I also have a book launch on Wednesday. You can come, or Thursday. Yeah, you can go check out some of the stuff we do there. That'll be fun. I know a bunch of the MGA folks are there. Norbert for me on the piece study. So that's
just to note, the application is live. It is currently going. It does run till October 6th is when it will close out. So there it is. You can either take a picture, you can find it from the MBA. It's on the MBA portal as well. Or you can email any of us and we can link you up if you have more questions, if you need something clarified, don't hesitate to ask.
And I'll say with the Botful application process, there are interviews with alumni. You have 3 weeks to do 2 of them. It's on you to schedule them. So as soon as you find out who you're supposed to interview with, I would recommend emailing them. They are full-time working professionals with families and other commitments. But you have 3 weeks. So, get those on your calendar. And I'd encourage you, of course, they're going to come with questions up for you to evaluate you as a candidate, but see it as an opportunity to learn more about their experiences as well. Build your network and, discern if this is the right course for you. Do you do interviews for real? Okay. So that's for Botful only.
A couple considerations for the MGA folks. It's going to be cross-listed this year. And then I'm working with Bill and Paul now for this to count as a research methods course for anyone that's an interest for. So we'll figure out those logistics, but I'm in the process of solidifying that now. And then for some folks, environmental policy can count for it as well. If you're MBA, but if you're MGA only, you cannot. And there's no restrictions first year, second years for anyone who's wondering about that. We do tend to preference second year students to make sure they get captured on the teams, because except first year students could reapply again the next year, but it's tended to be a mix. So only restriction for MGA though is that if you're in iLab, you cannot take this. Or you can't take out either.
Correct. And first year law students can't take them either.
You wouldn't want to do it.
You wouldn't want to. So. Any last questions? Otherwise, we'll stick around up here for a few minutes. I have to run and teach a night class, but thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
Oh, and if you have would you guys please to make sure that we capture
The E-M&A program, leadership. It's on load. I did, just by chance applied to the MBA first. I got in first. It was like, okay, and then applied to the MBA like about now in fall of my MBA years. You consider I'm trying to think if there were any. They were all for real. I could connect with somebody who graduated. Yeah. So I was on maternity leave where I work with Callie Cheney right now. Do you know her? I don't, but I can reach out. Yeah, but yeah, Callie Cheney was one. Honestly, essentially everyone together. Yeah. Callie might be